Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with the next review of the Terror in the Aisles challenge. This time, Jason and I watched Rosemary's Baby. This is no dream. This is really happening. Rosemary's Baby is a 1968 horror film, written and directed by Roman Polanski, based on the novel by Ira Levin. It's a classic, and scenes from it are undoubtedly featured in Terror in the Aisles. Mia Farrow stars as Rosemary Woodhouse. John Cassavetes plays her husband, Guy. Guy is a stage, radio, and commercial actor, but he aspires to be more. Guy and Rosemary rent a beautiful apartment in a building with a sordid history. A history of death and witchcraft. They overlook that, though, and move in anyway. Rosemary would like to have a baby, but Guy is very focused on his career. Not long after moving into the new apartment, Rosemary meets a young woman named Terry. Terry is staying with the older couple, the Castovets, who live next door. Ruth Gordon plays Minnie Castovet, and she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for the role. That's right, an Oscar winner in a horror film. You don't see that too often. One day, Rosemary and Guy arrive home to find a crowd gathered outside in the street. In the center of the crowd is Terry's lifeless body. Allegedly, she jumped out the window and killed herself. It's a gruesome scene, by the way. More graphic than I remembered it being. Her eyeball is literally on the ground next to her head. Roman and Minnie Castovet, with whom Terry was living, don't seem all that concerned about it. They do begin taking quite the interest in Rosemary, though. Guy also forms a close relationship with the older couple. Without going into too much detail, bad things start happening. An actor to whom Guy originally lost out on a role suddenly goes blind. Overjoyed with then receiving the role, despite the way in which he got it, Guy decides it is time to have a baby. If you've seen Rosemary's Baby, then you'll know the conception scene is not one you're ever likely to forget. Rosemary does in fact become pregnant, and the Castovets become even more interested in her than ever. When they first met her, they gave her a charm to wear, with a special herb inside. And now that she's pregnant, Minnie gives her a daily drink filled with special vitamins, she says. Her pregnancy isn't a good one. She's constantly in pain. But Rosemary's doctor keeps telling her the pain will go away. Rosemary cuts her hair and she loses a lot of weight, which is not typical for a pregnant woman. She becomes very pale and sickly. Rosemary knows something is wrong, but no one else seems too concerned. Not even Guy. The only one who does seem to take her concern seriously is an old friend, Hutch. But soon after visiting Rosemary and Guy, he suddenly falls into a coma. Like I said, bad things keep happening. Rosemary starts to suspect something is going on. Something involving her baby. Something involving witchcraft. But who can she turn to, and who will believe her? She's alone and terrified. Her paranoia is palpable, and you can feel it through the screen. The panic in her voice, in her eyes, in her expressions. It all seems so real, so terrifying. For a 1968 film, Rosemary's Baby holds up extremely well. This is intense. The movie is very Polanski, if that makes sense. He definitely has a style. This is part of his unofficial apartment horrors trilogy. The other two films included in that are Repulsion and The Tenant. Rosemary's Baby, though, is arguably Polanski's best film. The movie is even darker than I remembered. It had been a while since I had seen this, and damn did I love it this time. Rosemary's Baby has a runtime of approximately 2 hours and 17 minutes, but it's so well paced. Coming from me, that says a lot, because you know how I feel about longer runtimes. This is quite a bit longer than The Omen, for example, but The Omen feels quite a bit longer than this. It's comforting in a way. Creepy comfort. And speaking of creepy, how about Rosemary's Lullaby? That was really Mia Farrow singing it. When I was young, I had such a crush on Mia Farrow in this movie. Before the haircut. I just thought she was so pretty, and I loved her voice in this. She has that accent, but also there's this innocence in her voice. It's really fitting for the character and the situation. I also love the way she says Guy. There's a scene in Terror in the Aisles where she's saying his name, and it makes me laugh. I guess it's that accent. Ruth Gordon is fantastic as Minnie Castevet, and she definitely earned that Oscar. Mia Farrow actually left Frank Sinatra to do this role, anticipating she'd get an Oscar nomination herself. Unfortunately, and surprisingly, that didn't happen. I feel she would have been deserving as well. I love the scene with her using the Scrabble letters to solve the mystery. It was cool seeing the late Charles Grodin in the film. I had forgotten he was in this, and he was very young at the time. There's a scene with Rosemary in a phone booth, and it's so suspenseful. I'd honestly say it's one of the creepiest scenes in the movie for me. Behind the conception scene, of course. And then the climax, the grand finale, another memorable scene. I can tell you this, when all is said and done, Rosemary's Baby will appear much higher in my ranking than I initially anticipated. Much higher. This movie is really, really good. As far as witchcraft films go, Rosemary's Baby is definitely one of the best. As far as horror movies go in general, I could say the same. This is a classic for all the right reasons. And my relatable recommendation is Witchcraft. Witchcraft was released 20 years after Rosemary's Baby, in 1988. I reviewed Witchcraft last year, along with all 15 of its sequels. I then ranked that franchise. In that original Witchcraft review, though, I mentioned how much it reminded me of Rosemary's Baby. It's a much lower budget version, of course, but they definitely share similar storylines. Rosemary's Baby is an absolute classic, but Witchcraft, as a franchise, is a classic in its own right. Because how many franchises really have 16 films? That's impressive if you ask me. Check out Witchcraft if you haven't seen it, and all of its sequels too. They're definitely worth a watch. What are your thoughts on Rosemary's Baby? Comment below and let me know. And please be sure to check out Jason's review. This is no dream. Another review is really happening soon in the Terror in the Aisles challenge. Until then, thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind, subscribe.